She was beautiful, glamorous, and captivating. But behind the lipstick and champagne, she was a woman in crisis. In the spring of 1955, Ruth Ellis walked up to a London pub in broad daylight, pulled a revolver from her purse, and shot her lover dead. She made no attempt to flee. When police arrived, she calmly confessed, "I'm guilty." On the stand, questioned about her intention on that fateful day, she calmly responded, "It's obvious when I shot him, I intended to kill him." Just weeks later, she was hanged for murder, becoming the last woman to be executed in the United Kingdom. But was Ruth Ellis a cold-blooded killer or a desperate woman pushed to her breaking point? I'm Esther, and in this special 7-part series of Once Upon a Crime, we'll explore the troubled life, turbulent relationships, and tragic downfall of Ruth Ellis. From her childhood marked by neglect and abuse, to the seedy underworld of post-war London nightlife, and the trial that stunned the nation, we'll dig deep into the events that led to one of the most controversial executions in British history. This is Hanged, Ruth Ellis and the Price of Passion, Part 1, Becoming Ruth. Ruth Nielsen was born on October 9, 1926, in the windswept seaside town of Rhyl, Wales. Her father, Arthur Nielsen, though he was born Arthur Hornby, was a gifted cellist from a prosperous family in Manchester. There had been high hopes for both young Arthur and his twin brother, Charles Granville, born in 1897. But Arthur's life, like the music career he'd aspired to, would soon become a disappointment. In 1919, after 4 years serving his country in the Machine Gun Corps, not as a soldier, but as a bandsman, he returned to Manchester and met Elisa Bertha Goethals, known simply as Bertha. She was a 20-year-old Belgian refugee, a skilled seamstress, and a single mother to a baby boy named Julius, conceived in violence, the result of a rape by the son of a wealthy English family she worked for. They married in 1920, Bertha already 6 months pregnant, and began building a life that teetered constantly on the edge of collapse. Ruth was the fourth of 6 surviving children born into this fragile union. In 1928, Arthur's twin brother Charles was killed in a freak accident when his bicycle collided with a steamroller. The loss shattered Arthur. That same year, another son, John, or Jacques as they affectionately called him, was born, only to die months later before his first birthday. 2 deaths in 2 years, with a crumbling career and a family to feed, Arthur began to drink. The once charming, musically gifted man became angry, distant, and cruel. The family moved several times, forever running from debts, from landlords, and from the rising sense that nothing in their world was secure. Ruth, though favored by her mother, wore thick glasses, was teased for her appearance, and spent her childhood in threadbare clothes, drinking from jam jars, and sleeping in crates in makeshift homes. Ruth grew up knowing instability, fear, and the gnawing ache of wanting more. More love, more security, more than the life she'd been born into. By 1934, the family's financial troubles had worsened. Arthur, out of work for months, found employment as a hall porter at a mental hospital, a job that offered little stability but kept the family afloat. But the strain in the Nielsen home was no longer only financial. His eldest daughter, Muriel, would later reveal a horrifying truth. Her father had been sexually abusing her, beginning not long after the death of his twin brother. The abuse continued for years, and at 16, Muriel gave birth to a child, a boy named Robert William. Their mother, Bertha, pretended to be the baby's mother to avoid scandal. When Ruth entered puberty, Arthur turned his attention towards her. Muriel tried to protect her sister. She warned Ruth to stay out of the house when her mother was away. Ruth never talked about what happened, not to anyone except Muriel. She begged her sister to keep it a secret. In 1937, after giving birth to another baby girl, Bertha left her family, disappearing for 6 months to work at an inn miles away, leaving her 3 daughters to fend for themselves. She returned just as suddenly, offering no explanation. By 1939, Germany had invaded Poland, and Britain declared war. Arthur had been let go by his employer, and that year, he was hired as a caretaker in the city of Reading, a 30-minute journey north of Basingstoke, and a place that would become crucial in Ruth's coming of age. Reading was a bustling city, a stark contrast to the quiet, struggling villages Ruth had known. Ruth discovered her passion for dancing, a means to momentarily escape her troubled surroundings. As she blossomed into a young woman, Ruth began enjoying the attention of boys, shedding her glasses and her shy demeanor. September 1st, 1939, was a date that would echo throughout history. Germany had invaded Poland, and 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany, plunging Europe into war. Ruth's father, Arthur, was spared the front lines. His poor eyesight due to glaucoma kept him out of active duty. Instead, he moved to London, taking a job as a live-in caretaker and chauffeur for a lift manufacturer. A 2-bedroom flat came with the job. Meanwhile, Ruth, just 14, left school to work as a waitress at a cinema cafe in Reading. It was a tough job, but it came with perks. She realized that men liked her, which earned her larger tips. She turned her earnings over to her mother, but kept a portion to purchase affordable yet flattering clothes. She loved dressing up, showing off her developing figure, and dreaming of a better life. Ruth declared, "Mom, I'm going to make something of my life." Desperate to be near London, Ruth, who'd tried to avoid her father most of her young life, made a surprising decision to move in with Arthur. As a buffer, she brought along Edna Turvey, an unlikely friend. Edna was the girlfriend of Ruth's half-brother Julian. Edna was in her 30s, but she and Ruth shared an affinity for the nightlife, clubs, drinking, and casual encounters. Edna introduced Ruth to what Muriel would later call the fast life, the nightlife scene that offered an escape from the grim realities of war and Ruth's family chaos. Edna then began an affair with Ruth's father, Arthur. However, this unusual arrangement came to an end when Ruth's mother made an unannounced visit, catching Edna and Arthur in bed together. Furious, she threw Edna out of the house and insisted that she and Arthur end their separation. Reluctantly, Arthur agreed, and Bertha moved to London, reuniting the fractured family. From September 7, 1940, London found itself under relentless attack. Known as the Blitz, short for Blitzkrieg, the Nazi Luftwaffe launched a brutal bombing campaign that would last for 8 months, tearing through the heart of the city night after night. For 56 out of 57 days and nights, London was systematically bombed. Starting with the first air raid in September, the skies over the capital darkened with the roar of German planes dropping hundreds of bombs. By October, the nightly bombing campaigns intensified. Families huddled in underground shelters, trying to sleep amidst the chaos. 2 days after Christmas, Ruth's neighborhood in Southwark was hit hard. 50 people were killed when a shelter was struck directly. Just 2 days later, a staggering 22,000 bombs fell across London, claiming hundreds more lives. This summer, I did quite a bit of traveling, and as fun as it was, it really threw my body out of whack. Between lugging heavy suitcases, sleeping in unfamiliar beds, sprinting through airports, and squeezing into airplane seats, my body really felt it. And when I finally got back to my own bed, I still couldn't get a good night's sleep. The jet lag, absolutely brutal. That's when I turned to Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies, a natural way to ease the aches and pains, calm the stress, and help me really sleep. These gummies aren't just effective, they taste amazing too, with flavors like blueberry, peach, and watermelon. And here's what makes them really stand out. Cornbread Hemp uses only the flower of the hemp plant, the most potent part, and all of their products are USDA organic and third-party tested for quality and purity. That gives me real peace of mind. Ready to try them? Right now, Once Upon a Crime listeners get 30% off their first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/once and use the code ONCE at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/once, code ONCE. And we thank Cornbread Hemp for sponsoring the show. Despite the terror and destruction, Ruth lived her life freely and unapologetically. She took the hardships in stride, the food shortages, the blackouts, and the constant threat of attack. When asked about her attitude, she'd shrug and say, "Why not? A short life and a gay one." By now, Ruth had grown into a headstrong, independent girl. Only 14, she had a quick wit and a flair for dressing up, and knew how to draw the attention from young men. Petite, with curly brunette hair and a confident smile, she knew how to look older than her years, dressed to impress, with makeup that accentuated her features. Ruth took a job as a waitress at Lyons Corner House, near Trafalgar Square. Tips were good, and the job sparked dreams of someday owning her own chain of restaurants. By night, Ruth danced and flirted. When her sister Muriel scolded her for her wild ways, Ruth scoffed, "You may be the elder sister, but I'm 10 bloody years older than you in experience." In March 1942, Ruth's life took a sudden and painful turn. She was struck by excruciating pain in her left hand and wrist, forcing her into the hospital. X-rays revealed she was suffering from acute infective arthritis. Her feet were also painfully affected. Ruth spent 2 months confined in the hospital, but she refused to let the illness hold her back. Once discharged, her doctors recommended physical exertion to help her regain her strength. Ruth took this to heart. She poured her energy into dancing, her passion. She became a regular at London's underground dance spots, places that were popular with soldiers who sought entertainment and companionship. She also found work as a photographer's assistant at the Lyceum Ballroom in London's West End, a place known for its grandeur and glamour. The job fueled her dreams of glamour and success, inspiring her to envision a future far beyond the war-torn streets. One night in a club, 17-year-old Ruth struck up a conversation with a 27-year-old French-Canadian soldier, Claire Andrea McCallum. He was handsome, sophisticated, and seemed to have money, all the things Ruth found alluring. He bought her flowers, jewelry, and fine clothes. He took her to shows in the West End and movies in Soho. Muriel later stated that her parents allowed McCallum to stay with their teenage daughter in her top-floor room while he was on leave, because he was generous, sharing tinned food and cigarettes with Ruth's family during wartime rationing. Ruth fell deeply in love. She later wrote that McCallum, quote, "loved me devotedly, and when he was not with his unit, he would often write twice a day." But there was a dark truth beneath the romance. Claire McCallum was already married, with 3 children in Quebec. Ruth didn't know this at first, blinded by her infatuation. By early 1944, Ruth was pregnant. Claire asked her to marry him before he was shipped overseas, still hiding his wife and children back home. Her parents disapproved, but Ruth was too caught up in her feelings to see things clearly. She continued working until just weeks before her baby was due. On September 15, 1944, she gave birth to a boy, Andre. Her mother and father, although initially encouraging her affair with the much older serviceman, now disowned her. Ruth, just 17, asked Muriel and her new husband, Joe, to pick her up from the station with her baby. Meanwhile, Bertha had done some research, calling McCallum's commanding officer and discovering he was a married man. She called to berate him, but when McCallum learned his son had been born, he declared his intention to divorce his wife and marry Ruth. But Ruth's mother would not hear of it. Claire sent Ruth gifts, an expensive white pram for Andre, and money to support them. He truly loved Ruth and continued to send her maintenance long after he returned to Canada. But Ruth was heartbroken. She felt like a fool for falling in love, and she vowed never to open her heart again. "I no longer felt any emotion about men," she later said. "Outwardly, I was cheerful and gay, but inwardly, I was cold and spent." Ruth never spoke to Claire McCallum again. As the war drew to a close in 1945, the city slowly began to rebuild, but the scars from conflict lingered deep in the hearts of Londoners. Ruth, now a young woman, returned to work at Lyons, supporting herself and her son Andre and her parents, who were no longer able to work due to age and illness. Ruth's relationship with her parents was strained, filled with arguments, especially with her father, who lashed out at her verbally with ugly and belittling words. Despite the hardships, Ruth's spirit remained unbroken. She was determined to carve out a life on her own terms. She took on various jobs, waitressing, working as a photographer's assistant at the luxurious Locarno dance hall, and pursuing her dreams of fame and fortune. She learned to dress in stylish clothes, curl her hair, and apply makeup with skill, confident that her self-assured attitude and undeniable charisma would open doors. Ruth believed she could rise above her humble beginnings, aiming for wealth and success through her talents, not through marriage. Her boldness led her to answer an ad at the Camera Club in Manchester Square, where she posed for artistic photographs that revealed her willingness to push boundaries. Though she was still a brunette at the time, she later bleached her hair blonde, seeking new opportunities and a new persona. Her charm caught the eye of many, including Maurice Conley, a nightclub owner with a reputation as Britain's most notorious vice boss. Conley ran a shadowy empire of gambling, drugs, and prostitution. He was ruthless in his pursuit of power and profit. He saw in Ruth a promising young woman, attractive and vibrant, with just enough emotional baggage to be easily taken advantage of. He offered her a job as a hostess at his club, promising good money, glamour, and a chance to escape poverty. Ruth, eager for a fresh start and blinded by dreams of the good life, accepted. But behind the glittering facade lay a dark world, a world of exploitation, blackmail, and corruption. One Ruth would soon find herself entangled in, with consequences that would threaten her very life. In the shadows of London's glittering nightlife, Ruth Ellis' story takes a tragic turn. After dreaming big and fighting to carve out her place in the world, she steps into the dangerous world of nightclubs and high society, becoming a nightclub hostess in a city haunted by war and secrets. But love, as she soon discovers, can be a double-edged sword when she enters a relationship that pulls her deeper into London's seedier underbelly. As her world spirals further out of control, Ruth finds herself ensnared in a dark web, leading to a shocking end that would make her the last woman to face the gallows in Britain. Join me next week for part 2, as the true depths of Ruth Ellis' darkest days are revealed. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. If you'd like to listen to the entire audio version of this episode, you can hear it on Once Upon a Crime podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Or you can find all our episodes, as well as get links to all our social media channels, on our website, truecrimepodcast.com.